by side. From our halls we walk their aisles.
Achievements and awards now in prize. Join us and we'll show you the greatness of SSU. Summer State University, soaring high with excellence. Seat of innovation, we'll build and serve the nation. Summer State University, it's the best for you and me. Your future and dreams come alive. So come on to Summer State University.
Summer State University.
Summer State University. From our humble beginnings, we began to shine.
From taking little footsteps, we began to climb.
Near or far, we have reached across summer.
Balogan, Mercedes, Paranas and Basay. From our halls we walk their aisles.
Achievements and awards now in prize. Join us and we'll show you the greatness of SSU. Summer State University, soaring high with excellence. Seat of innovation, we'll build and serve the nation. Summer State University, it's the best for you and me. Your future and dreams come alive. So come on to Summer State University.
Summer State University.
So come on to Summer State University. From our humble beginnings, we began to shine.
From taking little footsteps, we began to climb.
Near or far, we have reached across summer.
From Balogan, Mercedes, Paranas and Basay. From our halls we walk their aisles.
Achievements and awards now in prize. Join us and we'll show you the greatness of SSU. Summer State University, soaring high with excellence. Seat of innovation, we'll build and serve the nation. Summer State University, it's the best for you and me. Your future and dreams come alive. So come on to Summer State University.
Summer State University.
So come on to Summer State University. From our humble beginnings, we began to shine.
From taking little footsteps, we began to climb.
Near or far, we have reached across summer.
From Balogan, Mercedes, Paranas and Basay. From our halls we walk their aisles.
Achievements and awards now in prize. Join us and we'll show you the greatness of SSU.
excellence, seat of innovation, will build and serve the nation. Summer State University, it's the best for you and me. Your future and dreams come alive. So come on to Summer State University. Summer State University. So come on to Summer State University.
I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you in all the lovely things so fine and true. I see you in the beauty of the flowers and the rain. I see you between the lines of a sweet refrain. I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you. Even when I'm lonely and in pain, I see you in the beauty of the stars at night. I see you in my life, I feel alright. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you in the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you in the smile of a baby, sweet and true. I can see you in the eyes of my very best friends. I see you in these bonds, just like your love that never ends. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you in the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day.
Sa ating bansa, mahigit 37 ang naipasang batas at polisiya na tumitiyak at nagtataguyod sa karapatan at kagalingan ng mga kababaihan at bata. Ngunit, nagpapatuloy pa rin na dumaranas ng karahasan at pang-aabuso ang mga kababaihan sa Pilipinas, lalo na ang mga kababaihang nasa laylayan ng lipunan. Sa katunayan, ayon na rin sa estatistika mula sa gobyerno, may isang babaeng biktima ng rape kada 72 minuto, habang isa sa 4 na kababaihan ang makakaranas ng karahasan at pang-aabuso mula sa kanilang asawa o partner. Pinalala ng pandemyang COVID-19 ang vulnerabilidad ng mga kababaihan at bata sa karahasan at pang-aabuso, lalo noong may deklara ang Enhanced Community Quarantine o ECQ sa buong Luzon. Sa tala ng Philippine National Police Women and Children Protection Center, may 4,030 kaso ng gender-based violence mula ika-15 ng Marso hanggang ika-31 ng Mayo noong panahon ng lockdown. Ito ay 57% mas mababa kumpara sa 9,200 at 72 na italang kaso noong nakaraang taon sa parehong panahon. Ngunit, ayon mismo sa PNP, hindi ito nangahulugang bumaba ang mga insidente ng gender-based violence dahil ang mga naitalang kaso ay kumakatawan lamang sa mga kasong naisampa sa pulis noong panahon ng ECQ. Maaring mas mataas pa ito dahil ang mga biktima ay nakakulong sa kanilang mga bahay kasama ang mga nang-aabuso. Ito ay isinabatas noong ika-8 ng Marso taong 2004 matapos ang isang dekadang pagsusulong ng mga kababaihang Pilipino. Layunin ng batas na tugunan ang laganap na karahasan at pang-aabuso sa kababaihan at kanilang mga anak. Ang violence against women and their children o ang pang-aabuso sa kababaihan at bata ay nagpapatungkol sa sinasadya at paulit-ulit na pang-aabuso sa babae at o sa kanyang mga anak ng kanyang karelasyon o dating karelasyon, kasal man sila o hindi. Malinaw sa batas na ang VAWC ay isang pampublikong krimen o public crime. Kadalasan ay tinuturing na pribado o away pampamilya o mag-asawa lamang ang VAWC. Nilalayon ng batas na baguhin ang ganitong kalakaran upang hindi magamit ang relasyon o pamilya para itago ito. Sa ilalim ng batas, ang VAWC ay public crime at hindi dapat nireresolba sa pag-aareglo. Ang public crime ay isang uri ng pagkakasala na maaring ihain sa korte kahit na sinong tao na may personal na kaalaman sa mga detalye ng kaso, tulad ng personal na pagkakasaksi sa pananakit sa biktima at o ng kanyang mga anak. Kinikilala ng batas ang hindi pantay na relasyon sa pagitan ng lalaki at babae kung saang kadalasang ang babae ang vulnerable sa karahasan at pang-aabuso. Dahil dito, sa ilalim ng batas, ang babae at o kanyang anak ang binibigyan ng karampatang proteksyon. Binibigyan din ng karampatang proteksyon ang anak ng biktima na menor de edad, lehitimo man o hindi, edad 18 pataas, kung saan ang bata ay walang kakayahang pangalagaan ang sarili dahil sa kapanusan ng pisikal, emosyonal o mental, at sinumang bata na nasa pangangalaga ng isang babae bukod sa kanyang biolohikal na anak. Ayon sa lahat ng mga pag-aaral na ginawa tungkol sa VAWC, mga kababaihan ang kadalasang sinasaktan at hindi kalalakihan. Mataas ang bilang ng mga kaso ng pang-aabuso sa kababaihan sa Pilipinas, kaya't kailangan ng mga kababaihan at ang kanilang mga anak ng proteksyon. Ang VAWC ay nakaugat sa mas mababang pagtingin ng lipunan sa kababaihan.
Hindi nakapagtimpi si Sunshine Cruz ng bastusin ng ilang netizens ang swimsuit photo kasama mga anak na kina Angelina, Samantha at Cheska.
Hindi po yan simpleng panlalait or panghusga. Nambabastos po sila.
Nakasuot ako ng maiksing short. Ligtas ba ako sa jeep?
Tandaan mo kung nasan kang bansa.
Mag-private vehicle ka na lang.
Huwag mo nang ipilit. Nakasuot ako ng maikling dress. Problema ba yun?
Come on, wala ka sa ibang bansa.
Balit ka nga. Huwag ka na nagsusuot ng ganyan. Naglalaro ko ng volleyball na naka-shorts. Problema ba yun?
Hindi ka naman mananalo dahil sa suot mo eh.
Iksi-iksi naman ang suot mo, te.
Para ka nakasuot ng underwear sa public eh.
Huwag ka magpakita ng legs.
Sanay ako magsuot ng crop top. Ano pong mali dun?
Hindi magandang tignan.
Hindi yan fashion.
Mas better kung naka-long sleeve.
Mukha ka lang.
Huwag mo nang ituloy.
Kung gusto mo respetuhin, ayusin mo yung pananamit. Para sa akin, hindi.
Hindi po.
Para sa akin, hindi batayan ang pananamit ng isang babae upang sila'y bastusin.
Dahil karapatan ng mga kababaihan na magsuot ng mga kasuotan na kanilang gusto.
At kahit na kailan ay hindi nakaka-apekto ang pananamit ng mga babae.
Hindi imbitasyon ang kasuotan ng kababaihan para sa isang sexual harassment. Lalong hindi ang paraan ng pananamit ng kababaihan ang magiging dahilan para sa makamundo mong pag-iisip.
Sa panahon ngayon, iba na ang takbo ng pag-iisip ng mga kalalakihan kung kaya't nakakagawa sila ng mga bagay na hindi maganda.
Nasa utak na yan ng tao kung paano nila tignan ng isang bagay, kung paano nila tignan ng pananamit ng isang babae. Ika nga, fashion is also a form of art.
Hanggat maaari, may karapatan tayo magsuot ng sarili nating pananamit. Kung anong naaayon sa ating katawan, kung saan tayo mas komportable.
Dahil ang mga taong nakaalat sa kababaihan ay hindi dahil maikli o revealing ang kanilang kasuotan, kundi dahil ito ay mahina at walang kakayahang lumaban.
Hindi pamantayan ng kasuotan o kung anong damit mong suot para irespeto ka ng tao, lalong-lalo na yung mga kalalakihan.
Bilang tao, dapat marunong tayong rumespeto at yun ang unang dapat nating pagkaugalian.
Huwag natin hayaang magpatuloy ang maling konsepto na ito at sana mamulat ang lahat, pati ang gobyerno sa katotohanan ito. Dahil hanggat may mga taong hindi responsable sa kanilang sarili, ay hindi ito masosolusyonan.
Naniniwala ako na sa aking pananamit ay walang mali dahil ang mga bastos na lalaki ay walang pinipili. Walang mababastos kung walang bastos. Walang magiging biktima kung walang mambibiktima.
Ang panliligalig sa sexual or sexual harassment ay isang paglabag sa karapatang pantao ng kababaihan at isang ipinagbabawal na anyo ng kaharasan laban sa kababaihan sa maraming bansa.
Ito ay nagdudulot ng malubhang pisikal at psikolohikal sa nakararaming porsyento ng mga kababaihan, lalong-lalo na sa lugar ng mga trabaho, hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas kundi sa buong mundo.
Ang panliligalig ay nakatuon laban sa kababaihan sa lugar ng trabaho ng kanilang mga supervisor, mga kapwa-empleyado, at iba pa. Hindi lang sa trabaho, pati na rin sa ating pamayanan.
Ayon sa batas, Republic Act 7877, Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, an act declaring sexual harassment unlawful in the employment, education, and training environment, and for other purposes. Ang anumang paglabag ay maaaring maparusahan ng pagkakulong hindi bababa sa 1 buwan at hindi lalampas sa 6 na buwan, o di kaya ay multa na hindi bababa sa 10,000 piso at hindi lalampas sa 20,000 piso, o kaya ay parehong pagmulta at pagkakulong ayon sa diskrusyon ng korte.
Kadalasan, nadadahilan ng mga kasuotan ng mga babae. Hindi porket ganoon sila manamit ay pwede na silang bastusin. Maraming babae sa mundo ay namamatay ng dahil sa panghahalay. Kapag hindi naibigay ng babae ang gusto ng hahalay, maaari itong saktan at magbunga din ng kamatayan.
Bahagi ng kalayaan sa self-expression ang pagpili ng kasuotan. Kailanman, hindi nababawasan ang dignidad at karapatan ng mga babae ng dahil sa kanilang damit. Ang mga taong bastos ang dapat sabihan na mag-regulate o magsaayos ng kanilang pag-iisip at asal.
Hindi tama na isisi mo sa kababaihan o sino mang taong naharas dahil sa kagagawan o sa kasuotan nito. Sexual harassment and sexual abuse is never the victim's fault.
Itigil mo ang pagkawalang respeto ng dahil lamang sa kasuotan ng mga kababaihan.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo. Itigil mo. Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Itigil mo.
Respeto naman.
Violence negatively affects women's general well-being and prevents them from fully participating in society. It impacts their families, community, and the country at large. In the Philippines, the National Demographic Health Survey 2017, released by the Philippine Statistics Authority, revealed that 1 in 4 Filipino women aged 15 to 49 has experienced physical, emotional, or sexual violence from their husband or partner. During this pandemic, according to the Philippine Commission on Women, women may experience different forms of violence from their perpetrator while locked down in their homes. This may also aggravate underlying gender issues and may affect marginalized and vulnerable sectors. This 2-hour symposium intends to inform our students and everyone the legal implications and psychological effects of violence against women and children and sexual harassment. Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to acknowledge the VAWC desk officers of CSWDO, representatives, and the daycare workers. Welcome to our webinar. So without any further ado, let us call in again the Director of the Student Welfare and Development Services, Ms. May V. Canyal, to introduce our speaker this afternoon.
Good afternoon again, Summer State University and our students, and for those in the Zoom and watching us live in SSU-SWDS Facebook. So for this afternoon, we will be talking about VAWC and anti-sexual harassment. So we have invited speaker from the SWD Field Office 8 for this activity. So our speaker is a graduate of Sudman Elementary School in March 2006 and graduated as class valedictorian. Accelerated from secondary high school to college through the DepEd ALS graduate in St. Ignatius de Loyola Academy in 2009. A graduate, a Bachelor of Science in Social Work at Leyte Normal University in 2014. And having her master's degree in University of the Philippines, Visayas, Tacloban College, in Masters in Management, Public Management. She's been a caseworker from January to June 2013 in Department of Social Welfare and Development, Reception and Study Center for Children in Pawing Palo, Leyte. In July 2013 to March 2014, she's the Community Development Facilitator of World Vision Development Foundation Incorporation of Tacloban City. And currently, the Project Development Secretary or the DSWG Interagency Secretariat of the Regional Interagency Council Against Trafficking, Child Pornography, and Violence Against Women and Children in the SWD Field Office 8. Our dear students from Zoom and watching us FB, let us welcome our speaker for this afternoon, a licensed social worker, a public motivational inspirational speaker, an advocate of anti-gender-based violence, and a mental health advocate. Let's welcome Ms. Maria Carmela Oliantes.
Can you see me po? Can you hear me well?
Choppy siya.
Can you hear me po? Can you hear me na po?
Okay na.
Okay po. So, hi everyone. I'm Carmela from the SWD. So, thank you, Ma'am May, for the very long introduction. So, I sincerely apologize for the very weak internet connection this morning. I was not able to connect. So, I was not able to
we are currently having a difficulty. The speaker is having a difficulty in connecting with the internet. So please stand by.
Kailangan yung internet hindi nakikipag-cooperate. Can you hear me again po? Hello po?
Yes po.
Okay. So let's get this done na po kay para baka po hindi makipag-coordinate na yung internet connection. So anyway, as we continue to celebrate the 18-day campaign to end violence against women. So tonight, gabi na, let's talk about violence against women and sexual harassment. So for this one, we will tackle about laws covering these two forms of gender-based violence para po ma-address ang aton mga misconceptions about VAWC and sexual harassment. Naton po, hear me again po?
Yes
So
po.
I'm gonna turn off my I will turn off my video na lang po para makasave po ng internet connection, baka nakakabawas po siya. So okay, let's talk about VAWC and sexual harassment and the laws covering these two forms of gender-based violence. So first now, as provided by RA 9262 or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. So according to RA 9262, violence against women and their children refers to any act or series of acts committed by any person against a woman who is his wife. So pwede iya asawa niya mag-victimize, or an iya dati nga asawa, or an iya uyab, or even an iya uyab before nga nagkabulag na hera, or in a dating relationship, or with whom he has a common child, or against her child. So pwede po masiring nga VAWC kung nabiktima gihap an anak han iya dati or present partner. So ito nga anak, bisan pa ito legitimate or illegitimate, diriya ma-matter. So it is VAW if common child between the two, or legitimate man or illegitimate, within or without the family abode. So it could happen outside or within their residence, which result in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, psychological harm. So these are the results of violence against women and children, or suffering or economic abuse, including threats of such acts. So let's expound on that later on. So what's the purpose of this act? It is to uphold the dignity of women and children and guarantee full respect for human rights. Because women's rights, hindi po siya pa-special lang, hindi siya privilege. It is our basic human rights as women. Also, to protect the family and its members, particularly women and children, from violence and threats to their personal safety and security. So, violence against women is not an issue or a problem in the world alone. It involves the whole community. Kasi po, like for example, kung may mga violence against women na na-witness ng mga bata, ang pananaw sa kabaihan sa mga they grow up and mahirahing families, maaapektuhan ko mga may dahil cycle of violence within the community. So it is not issue involving the husband, the woman, and the wife alone, the whole community. Violence is physical violence, which refers to acts that inflict bodily or physical harm. Ulan ka physically, so ang himo nga punching bag, bangin ka naging tataplong, susunto, or ginkukudyot, or ilakagin dadag, violently, push violently. Sexual violence is a violence against women, which is an act sexual in nature committed against a woman or her child. So one of the most common forms of this is marital rape. Yes, marital rape happens. It is when the woman or wife is being forced to have sex with her husband. Like for example, if she is not feeling well, when she is on her menstrual period, makipagsex niya asawa. So that is marital rape and it is considered as a form of sexual violence. Another is psychological violence, which refers to acts or omissions causing or likely to cause mental or emotional suffering of the not limited to intimidation. Gini-intimidate nga ginpapating talaga iyan iya kakusog as iya nga tataplungon hiya kung diriya masunod tutok mo niya kung diriya masunod susuntok ko ikaw or patayon kung imuan or relatives or ni aton anak. Harassment, stalking, ginsundan kalagap bisan bulang kamo. Damage to property. Wala ay balay, ginlabog ang iyong gamit, kay nakikigbulag ka na. Then public humiliation, ipapakaaraw-dan ka in front of many people in the public. And repeated verbal abuse, mental infidelity. So mental infidelity, ito nga na-cheat na imo asawa, bisa maarang nga maarang ka na padayon lahihap, dadarahin babae, Hello po, can you hear me again?
Yes po, yes po.
Okay na po.
Okay. Hello, let's go back to the forms of violence. So, as I've said, ang psychological violence, this involve harassment, stalking, damage to property, public ridicule or humiliation, and repeated verbal abuse and mental infidelity or ginto-torture ka na mentally kay sigihin, cheat mo. Another is economic abuse, which refers to acts that make or attempt to make a woman financially dependent. So, diri ka naging papagawas, fully dependent ka na imo asawa, diri ka gin papatrabaho. So, ani mo movement diri ka gintutugutan pag dinawas, pagtrabaho, pamilinghin mga opportunities that will help you develop your capacities or your abilities as a woman. So by the time nga gina-abuse ka na, nakukuren ka na pagbayahan, toxic relationship. Kay an imo giniisip, an imo na anak, kinon mag-aalaga, kaya mo ba kung usa kala. So you are being economically abused. So victims of RA 9262, so na-mention ko na ini kanina, and wife or ex-wife, boyfriend or girl relationship, and woman with a child with the man, any woman with the previous relationship with the man. So as you can see, ang victims lang po ng RA 9262 ay mga kababaihan lamang po. Yes, meron pong mga, nowadays, meron pong mga lalaki na sila na mismo yung mga abusive ay yung kanilang mga asawang babae. But then, as for now, we can do nothing about that kasi they can only file for physical injury if they are getting hurt by their wives. Whereas yung RA 9262 po kasi, for women lang siya. While marami tayong mga naririnig sa mga kalalakihan na nagrereklamo, bakit daw, para lang daw po sa mga kababaihan yung protection, they need to exert efforts din po. Yung mga kalalakihan, kasi tayo, mga babae, before tayo dumating sa puntong ito, before tayo nagkaroon ng RA 9262, ng Magna Carta of Women, 9710, or other protective laws, marami muna tayong pinagdaanan ng mga rally, pinagdaanan ng mga public speech from our heroes, women na mga heroes. Marami tayong pinagdaan ng kahirapan muna wherein we were abused so much before, we were hurt so much before, at nasa na tayo ngayon at present. Marami na tayong laws protecting our women. So dapat yung gagawin din po ng mga kalalakihan, they should support each other, they should speak more. Dapat putulin natin yung yung culture na paglalaki dapat hindi nagsasalita, hindi nagsusumbong if they are hurt. So we can file a case for anti-VAWC or violation of RA 9262. So as I read, it's a public crime. So the offended party can file a case for anti-VAWC, including but not limited to the social worker, the police officer, barangay kagawad, lawyer, but all of this should be involved with the case. Kung sino lang po yung mga involved sa case, and aside from that, any person who has knowledge of the crime. So any witnesses can report a violation of RA 9262. What are the acts punishable by RA 9262? So first, causing physical harm to the woman or her child, threatening or attempting to cause the woman or her child physical harm, placing the woman or her Okay, I'm sorry for that. So threatening, attempting to cause the woman or her child physical harm, placing the woman or her child in fear of imminent physical harm, and attempting to compel or compelling the woman or her child. These were mentioned. So what are the acts punishable by RA 9262? So another is inflicting or threatening to inflict physical harm on oneself or controlling actions or decisions. So palagi po itong mga nangyayari sa mga mag-asawa na naghihiwalay na. May mga lalaki na hindi pa rin nakaka-let go. So pinagsasabi nila yung mga asawa nila na magpapakamatay sila, kung iiwan sila. So yung babae parang natatakot siya, baka magpakamatay nga yung lalaki. So that is inflicting physical harm on oneself. So nate-threaten yung babae na baka mag-guilty tuloy siya kung mamatay nga yung lalaki. Then another is causing mental or emotional anguish, public ridicule or humiliation to the woman or her child, including but not limited to repeated verbal abuse and emotional abuse, and denial of financial support or custody of minor children, of access to the woman's child or children. Kung nga ginahadlo ka na, kung dili ka makipag-cooperate, kung ano niya gusto nga, de-deprive ang child support kanimo anak, for example. So let's say, for example, Juana, who is married, 35 years old, with 5 children, ages 1, 4, 5, 6, and 8 years old. So marami siyang anak. Juana is physically battered by her husband, who was jobless and drunkard. So palainom po yung kanyang asawa, tapos wala pang trabaho. But then si Juana, siya po yung breadwinner of the family by offering laundry services. And then one night, she was found to be full of bruises. So as we can see, kinastigo po siya ng kanyang asawa, assuming kasi jobless yung kanyang asawa and drunkard palainom. So what steps must be done? Of course, these are the services needed by victims and survivors of gender-based violence. They need medical assistance, psychological counseling, legal assistance from the following. But then before that, sino yung unang lalapitan ng VAWC victim or survivors or the witnesses? Yung first responders po ay yung barangay level. Yung role po ng barangay, they are the first responders to any forms of gender-based violence. Their role is to accept complaints of victims and survivors and then coordinate these complaints or issues to the nearest municipal social welfare office. So, diri hirap pwede mag-mediate, diri hirap pwede mag-settle in cases of GBV, diri ito nira trabaho, mate-technical ito hera, pwede ito hera ig-report or ig-reklamo. Their report is to record these cases and then coordinate these reports to the nearest municipal social welfare office. So from the barangay level to the municipal social welfare office, the social worker then assists the victim or survivor to get medico-legal examination to the nearest hospital. And then after that, along with that medico-legal examination is the psychological counseling. Kay apigyap ito han affidavit as one of the evidences kung ano mga psychological effects han abuse haiya nga nahinabo. And then to seek legal assistance from the DOJ, the Public Attorney's Office, kung mga indigent po, at kung mayaman at maraming pera, pwede pong private lawyer. So one of the protections of victims and survivors of violence against women is the protection order. So one of this is the Barangay Protection Order. It is an order issued under this act for the purpose of preventing further acts of violence against a woman or her child, specified in Section 5 of RA 9262. So who will enforce this? It is the law enforcement agency or the local police.
Our speaker got disconnected again. So as she was saying, protection order is an order issued under this act for the purpose of preventing further acts of violence against a woman or her child specified in Section 5 of this act. The acts of violence against women and their children
and granting other necessary relief. Yes, these are some of the information that we must all know in case we encounter such situations. So, as what our speaker was saying a while ago, in VAWC, anyone can actually report the case. So, let's all again welcome our speaker.
So what are the effects of the protection order? So one of these is the barangay protection order, as I've said. So one is to prevent the offender to do physical harm against the victim para po ma-prevent an offender na magbinaopahan victim or survivor. So po itong mga provisions kung pila ka meters allowed and victim dumaop. So another is to prevent the offender to threaten to do physical harm against the victim para mautod na ang violence nga nahihinabo. Then to prevent the offender from communicating with the victim. So included po dito and to cut off all forms of communication between the husband and wife. Pero in reality, palagi pong pabalik-balik lang yung proseso. So kahit pang anong gawin ng mga social
Okay, so some of the effects of the protection order are the following. So it prevents the offender to do physical harm against the victim, and it prevents the offender to threaten to do physical harm against the victim, and prevents the offender from communicating with the victim.
Okay po, again, in reality po yung nangyayari, pabalik-balik lang po kahit kung anong gawin ng mga social workers, ng mga barangay officials para po sila paghiwalayin sila mag-asawa. Yun nangyayari po, nagkakaroon po pa rin ng cycle of violence, nagkakaroon ng honeymoon stage, at si husband na nakakabiling po hinway para makontak na naman ni asawa, thus na susuyo na naman niya, so nagbabalik na naman hira, and then nauutod na naman na attempt to file a case. So, aton part ng mga service providers, if we become social workers in the future, if we become psychologists, dapat di rin natin ginuhusgahan ini nga mga women, if they return to us, if they stop from filing the case and then after a few weeks they return with bruises again, dapat di rin natin hiragin judge because considering the factors nga nakaka-prevent haira from continuing the case, one of which is if they are economically dependent or if they love their husband. Usa ito nga mga dako nga factors. Damula ito nga mga factors nga dapat gin-consider naton before releasing mga words haera. Kay may mga iba kasi nga nadaop na naman in reality. Ang ginyaya ka ng mga social workers, adi ka na naman, good, sigurado ka na. Bangin after a week na naman, mauli ka na naman iyo and then kakastiguhon ka na naman. So may tendency nga kung amo ito nira na babatian from the social workers, mautro pa nga ni ito nga violence, maaawod na lugod diya pagdaop next time. So amo ito ang effect kung aton hiragin huhusgahan. So dapat kita as service providers, as first responders, padayon lagyap kita nga mga serbisyo bisan diri pa hera decided kung magaano hera. And then who can apply for a protection order from the barangay or from the court? So it can be the offended party, the victim or survivor herself, the parents of the offended party, her relatives, the social worker, or even the barangay kagawad. Of course, bisa pa inira mag-report, mamater lagyap inihan cooperation han babayi, han victim. So what are the kinds of protection orders? So barangay protection, as I've mentioned, the temporary protection order, and the permanent protection order. So yung barangay protection order nga po ay yung effectivity niya 15 days sa barangay level lang po ito para po habang hindi pa nagpa-file ng case yung babae, habang hindi pa siya sure, undecided pa siya, may protection. Hindi makakalapit muna yung asawa. And then within that 15 days, habang pinoproseso na yung case, if indeed she pushes to file a case, magkakaroon na ng temporary protection order. This refers to the protection order issued by the court on the date of filing of the application after determination na such order should be issued. So this is issued by the court. And then the permanent protection order naman refers to protection order issued by the court after notice and hearing. Meaning, may notice na and meron ng court hearing. Permanent na po siya. How to file an application for temporary protection order or PPO before the court? So we just have to avail services of the Public Attorney's Office. Lapit lang po tayo, may mag-a-assist na lang po sa atin. Or a private services of a lawyer. If we are kwartahan, damo naton kwarta. Where to file the case for violation of RA 9262. So, family court po hiya dapat ha aton municipal trial court. But in the absence of such court, in the place where the offense committed, the case shall be filed in the regional trial court where the crime or any of its elements was committed at the option of the compliant. So, sa municipal trial court, sa family court ng municipal trial court, or kung wala pong family court, dun po tayo sa regional trial court. So can the barangay act as mediator of the offender and the offended party, including the lawyer? So ito po yung sinasabi ko kanina. There should be no settlement of cases, of VAWC cases in the barangay level. Pwede po silang ireklamo niyan. So why is there a need to help battered women? Because no one has the right to physically harm any women. True love is based on respect, care, and equality. So, dapat always may respect, care, and equality. Pag minsan lang mayroong respect, care, and equality, that is not true love. So, that is a toxic relationship. Another is with the aid of the community, a violent marital relationship can be prevented. So, dapat may role po ang community in preventing all forms of gender-based violence. Okay, so that's all for RA 9262. Now let's talk about sexual harassment and the salient features of RA 7877, otherwise known as Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. So these are the salient features. Ano ang sexual harassment? That is work, education, or training related. So work, education, or training-related sexual harassment ay committed by an employer, imo boss, or imo katrabaho, manager, coach, imo teacher. In other words, may authority and person over the victim or influence or moral ascendancy over another in a work or training environment. So sexual harassment in a work-related or employment environment is committed when the sexual favor is made as a condition in the hire in the employment. Ito nga yayaknan ka nga, kung diri ka kumadto ha hotel, kung diin kita makikita, kay magsusugad kita ini, diri ka ma-promote ha trabaho, or diri ka makakarawatan usa nga mga opportunities na imugin hihingya. So in a work-related or employment environment setting, sexual harassment is committed when there is a refusal to grant a sexual favor which results in limiting, segregating, or classifying the employee. So amo na ni kung diri ka na naka-operate, nadi-discriminate ka na, diri ka na nako-consider for the position that you are applying for.
We would like to commend our speaker for having this perseverance just to give us a talk. She really has a very bad internet connection right now. She's been disconnected for so many times already. And she's back.
Yan, I'm really sorry po. Yung internet connection talaga may problema po. So, okay pa po ba tayo? So, kung ginre-reject mo na ang sexual favor or offer for you, amo na, may nahihinabo na nga discrimination. Diri ka na nako-considerhan mga opportunities. So, in education or training environment, on the other hand, sexual harassment is committed when one who is under the care, custody, or supervision of the offender against one whose education, training, apprenticeship, or tutorship is entrusted to the offender. So, pwede ini mo mga teacher, mo mga coach, nagsusupervise sa imo training. When the sexual favor is made a condition for the giving of a passing grade, or the granting of honors and scholarships, or the payment of a stipend, allowance, or other benefits, privileges, or consideration, and when the sexual advances result in an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment for the student, trainee, or apprentice. So this is involves coach or teacher to student relationship. So ano yung duty, ano yung obligations ng mga employer or head of the office or the management committee in a work-related environment or training environment? So they shall promulgate appropriate rules and regulations in consultation with and jointly approved by the employees or student or trainee. So in other words, dapat may dapo ang aton mga schools, ang aton mga training center, dapat may dapo kita daan na regulations or policies na naka-prepare na daan whenever there are sexual harassment cases in our school or training center. Dapat prepared na hiya daan, dapat nakasaad na daan na ano ang mga sanctions, ano ang mga penalties if there will be employees who will violate. Create a committee on decorum and mitigation. Meron pong committee who will act as a policy-making body and a monitoring body. And aside from that, aside from policy-making, dapat they will also conduct advocacy campaigns that will address sexual harassment and gender-based, of all forms of gender-based violence. They also should conduct the investigation of alleged cases constituting sexual harassment. So ano po yung liability of the employer or the head of the office or the management committee? So the employer or head of office, educational or training institution shall be solidarily liable for damages arising from the acts of sexual harassment committed in the employment, education, or training environment if the employer or head of office, educational, or training institution is informed of such acts but then walang immediate action that was taken. So, kung re-review nato ng RA 9262 and the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, palagi pong naka-highlight yung role ng community, ng committee, ng community. Kasi, this do not only involve the victim and the perpetrator, but also the community and the management committee kung adun kamuha training environment. Dapat everyone who witnesses such act should report and coordinate with proper authorities. So what penalties any person who violates the provisions of this act shall upon conviction be penalized by imprisonment of
Margaret is speaking.
1,000 pesos fine, maliit lang po siya. 20,000, maliit lang din po. So, hindi po nakapagtataka kung bakit marami pa rin nag-violate. Or both such fine and imprisonment at the discretion of the court. Ang liit-liit lang ng 10,000, 20,000 pesos. Isang buwang sweldo lang ito or isang kinsinas na sweldo lang ng mga teachers, ng ibang teachers na hindi pa mga regular, ng ibang social workers. So madali lang po siyang bayaran. So di na po nakapagtataka kung bakit maraming nagpa-violate. Any action arising from the violation of the provisions of this act shall prescribe in 3 years. Okay. So in summary, as I've said kanina, if we will review these two laws protecting women and children, the role of the community has always been highlighted. We all have a role to play. Anyone who witnesses any forms of gender violence shall report. Anyone who has information about such act should coordinate with proper authorities. We are all liable. We all have a responsibility towards our citizens, haaton women, haaton children, kasi as I've said, yung violence po, all forms of gender-based violence is a community issue. Community issue po siya. Pag hindi po natin i-address, maapektuhan po yung pananaw ng ating mga bata. They will grow if we want to end violence in the community, dapat dapat na-close kita, nabulit kita han mga tao nga affected. For the safety of our women and children in the future. So I think that's all. Siguro baka matanggalan na naman ako ng internet connection. Baka mawala na naman po ako.
Update internet.
Hello, Miss Carmela. Are you still there?
Hello.
Oh, thank you so much for that very concise information about VAWC and sexual harassment. Before we move on to our open forum, we would like to call in our Vice President for Student Affairs and Services for the presentation of the certificate.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Samar State University, Catbalogan City, Philippines. Office of University President. Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Maria Carmela T. Poliantes as RSW in grateful recognition for imparting her valuable insights and expertise as a resource speaker during the webinar on VAWC and anti-sexual harassment held on December 2, 2020 at Samar State University. Given the second day of December 2020 at Samar State University, Catbalogan City, Samar. Signed, Dr. Marilyn D. Cardoso, University President. Thank you so much po, Ma'am Carmela. Congratulations po. Thank you po.
Thank you po. I'm really sorry po for the very weak internet connection and the external noises.
Okay,
I guess this is now the new normal. I'm really sorry po.
New normal.
But I hope you learned a lot po from this session.
Ms. Carmela, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I know that this is one of the challenges of this new normal, but we really acknowledge and we really appreciate your perseverance in really reconnecting to our audience just for you to advocate VAWC and anti-sexual harassment. Can we proceed to the open forum now? Ms. Carmela?
Sure po, sure po.
Okay, we have one question. He has two questions now.
For example, yung ano to, pwede po bang other person yung mag-report ng violence pero yung victim is denial? So, cover pa po ba siya or parang may pag-asa pa po ba siyang parang what I mean is yung may laban po ba yung si friend na nag-report na denial na yung victim? Yun po.
Hello po. As I've said po, although we can report, because we have the responsibility to report kung tayo po ay witnesses or meron tayong first-hand information, it would always depend on the cooperation of the victim herself po. Kaya yun po talaga yung mahirap kung hindi po talaga makipag-cooperate si victim kung pabago-bago po yung isip niya. So yung gagawin na lang po sana natin is to really convince the victim that he is in a relationship that is no longer healthy for her, that is no longer good for her. Dapat we should always talk to her, convince her to remove herself from that situation. Yun lang po talaga. And then sa aming part naman po, yung strategy namin from the DSW to really convince the victim to ma-push po yung case is nire-remove po namin yung victim sa community. Kasi pag nasa community siya, marami pong mga tao na kumukumbinsi sa kanyang decision-making process. One is yung kanyang asawa, one is yung relatives ng kanyang asawa. So pag ito yung mga palagi niyang naririnig araw-araw na stop na yung case, wag na mag-push through, nakukonvince po siya habang tumatagal. So yung ginagawa namin, pinupull out po namin sila at piniplace po namin sila sa mga centers and institutions ng DSWD for temporary shelter.
Ms. Carmela, we also have we still have another question from the same person, but a different situation.
Okay po.
Di rin ah. Hello? Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes po.
So, another question po. This is about sa sexual harassment naman. Yung, for example, yung about LGBT community. So, ano yung mga parang, ano yung paano masasabi na nagva-violate na yung rights ng mga LGBT or ano yung saklaw ng sexual harassment law na nagpoprotekta sa mga LGBT o sa LGBT community?
So all the provisions of the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act protects all persons regardless of gender po. So meaning included po talaga dito yung LGBT community. So kahit lalaki po yung nababastos, kahit po gay or lesbian or trans, covered po sila ng RA. Hello po.
Hello, Miss Carmela.
Yes po, yes po.
Okay, thank you so much for
Can you hear me po?
Yes po. We can still hear you.
Okay, wala po yung discrimination regardless of gender, kung babae man o lalaki. All of us can experience kasi sexual harassment. Yung Sexual Harassment Act po, hindi lang po yun for women.
So, good evening po again. So, another question. Earlier, narinig ko sa talk about yung parang kailangan pang magsama-sama ng mga lalaki na abuse ng mga kababaihan upang magkaroon sila ng parang protection para sa mga lalaki. Kasi kung sa babae, meron na tayong VAWC. So ngayon, meron po bang programa yung gobyerno or hakbang ang gobyerno na na kayang isaklaw or kayang maprotektahan ang mga kalalakihan laban sa mapangabusong kababaihan? Yun po.
Yes po. Yung DSWD po ngayon, meron po kaming pilot program which is called Enhanced National Family Violence Prevention Program. So, covered po ng programa yung ito ay hindi lang po mga kababaihan at pati mga kalalakihan na mga abused po. So, pilot program pa lang siya, parang pilot implementation pa lang sa ibang area, sa ibang regions. And Region 8 is covered under this program. At yung maganda po dito, hindi lang po yung mga victims yung na-address po, yung natutulungan, pati din po yung mga perpetrators. They undergo rehabilitation kung sila ay may mga anger management problems, for example. So yun po yung maganda. Yung intervention po, hindi lang po towards the victims or the survivors, na-address po din po yung mga problema ng mga perpetrators, because I strongly believe that is how we can truly end violence. Dapat po hindi lamang po para sa mga victims and survivors yung interventions natin, dapat sa mga perpetrators din. So yung programa po ay hindi po para sa mga kababaihan lamang, pati din po sa mga kalalakihan. So I hope maging successful po yung implementation na ito para po sa buong Pilipinas ma-implement po yung programa. That is what we are doing currently po.
Okay po, thank you po.
Thank you so much, Miss Carmela. Yan na lang po kami hito na hibaro nga sugad ngayon hito ang ginhimo nga step na of our government. And I really hope, and we really hope that it can really that the government's steps can really be kumbaga put into action and can be acknowledged, kasi nga nowadays based nga kanina sa talk and sa video, there may be more cases of VAWC and harassment during this time of pandemic. It's just that not reported just because they are locked down in their homes. And we are very much thankful for having you this afternoon for giving us information, the legalities of VAWC and sexual harassment. Although, despite the very bad connection and the change of time because of the bad connection. Thank you so much, Ms. Carmela. And we look forward to having you again in our next webinars.
Sana po, baka kayo na-trauma na po sa akin.
No worries, ma'am, kasi we also understand, kasi we were also having difficulties with internet connection a while ago. Many times din kami na-disconnect with the prior webinar. Yeah. Okay, so
thank you so much po.
Thank you, Ms. Carmela. And if you have last words or for our viewers.
Okay, siguro na-mention natin yung role ng community, ng role ng mga victims and survivors, ng perpetrators. Ngayon, I want to highlight those people na are still hiding, hindi pa rin nagsusumbong what's happening to them. I really want to encourage you na mag-speak up, kasi that is when everything good in your life will begin to happen. Lahat ng opportunities dadating sa buhay mo when you come out and speak up what's happening to you, what's the unpleasant experiences that you had. We really have to reach out first to get the support that we need. Kailangan po talaga na magsalita po tayo. Huwag po tayo mag-alinlangan, kasi yung interventions po ng gobyerno, hindi po yan nagtatapos lamang after the rescue operation. After rescuing us, tayo po ay may magandang paglalagyan while we decide to file a case. So yung interventions po ng gobyerno, yung mga tulong na matatanggap po natin ay hindi po magtatapos lamang sa rescue operation. Tayo po ay makakapag-aral, kung hindi pa tayo tapos mag-aral, tayo po ay makaka-receive ng legal assistance, we will be supported, we will be trained kung ano yung mga gusto nating trainings or opportunities na makuha. Kasi yung interventions po ay full package of services. We will really get the help that we need as we speak up and seek support from others. So really, we have to speak up.
Thank you so much, Ms. Carmela. So if we are to fight discrimination and injustice against women, we must start from the home. For if a woman cannot be safe in her own house, then she cannot be expected to feel safe anywhere. So December may not be Women's Month. However, as we end the year, may we also end violence against women and children. This has been Bam, your moderator for today's webinars. We'll have our photo up first. Zoom people. Ada pa kamo? Kindly turn on your cameras for the pictorial. Miss Carmela, can you turn on your camera?
Okay, ako background. Nasabi kita.
Miss Carmela?
Na-out niya.
Hello po. Can you see me po?
Hi, niya.
Okay, at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay na, J? Usap pa. At the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Usap pa? Usap ako, no? Ano naman nga kaposing nga siya lagi hapon? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay na. Thank you, Ms. Carmela.
Thank you so much, Ms. Carmela.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Carmela.
Thank you so much, ma.
SSU-SWDS. Thank you to all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you po.
Ladies and gentlemen, the SSU March.
Let us sing a song of gladness to our alma mater race. Come, ye classmates, friends, and comrades, let her glory be your praise. May your lasting light be our guide as we leave our portals wide. SSU only ever in our hearts will this refrain. Faith will lead us to our destiny of success or adversity. Yet to the end we give our loyalty. Alma mater, hail to thee. In the ivy halls of learning, from the wisdom thou hast gained, shaping lives for home and country, for our nation's and free. Speaking of her fame and honor, carry we her banner high. On we march to victory, running bold forevermore. SSU, our beloved school, we will cherish your name for aye. With grateful hearts, thy children love we cry. SSU, mabuhay. From Katbalogan, Mercedes, Paranas and Pasay. From our halls we walk their aisles.
Achievements and awards now in prize. Join us and we'll show you the greatness of SSU. Summer State University, soaring high with excellence. Seat of innovation, we'll build and serve the nation. Summer State University, it's the best for you and me. Your future and dreams come alive. So come on to Summer State University.
Summer State University.